afternoon, and thank you all for holding. Your lines have been placed on a listen-only mode until the question and answer portion. And I would like to remind all parties the call is now being recorded. If you have any objections, please disconnect at this time. And I would now like to turn the call over to Gina Anderson. Thank you. You may begin.
Good afternoon. I'm Gina Anderson from NASA's Office of Communications. Thank you for joining us today to talk to NASA and Northrop Grumman representatives for our pre-launch news teleconference on Northrop Grumman's 17th commercial resupply mission for the agency to the International Space Station. Northrop Grumman is targeting 12:40 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, February 19th for the launch of its Cygnus spacecraft atop an Antares rocket from the Mid-Atlantic Regional Air Spaceport at NASA's Wallops Flight Facility on Wallops Island, Virginia. Here to give us an overview of the resupply mission will be Joel Montalbano, Manager of the International Space Station Program, Jennifer Buckley, Deputy Chief Scientist for the International Space Station Program, who will discuss the science and research heading to the orbiting laboratory, Steve Krein, Vice President, Civil and Commercial Space, Tactical Space Systems at Northrop Grumman to discuss the Cygnus spacecraft, Kurt Eberly, Director of Space Launch Programs and Launch and Missile Defense Systems at Northrop Grumman, and he'll discuss the Antares rocket. We'll also hear from Jeff Reddish, Project Manager for at NASA's Wallops Range Antares project, about range status here and at Bermuda. Finally, but certainly not least, what everyone's been waiting to hear, we'll hear the weather forecast for Saturday's launch from Caroline Jones. She's a meteorologist at NASA Wallops. First, we will hear from our first speaker and run through all of our speakers. Reporters, before we open the line for questions from reporters, your phones are on mute now. To get into the queue, you can press *1 on your phone. At the end of when we finish talking to our speakers, we'll call on you. The reporter will open your mic so you can ask the question. We ask that you please stick to one question at a time, and if time allows, there will be additional time to ask follow-up questions. After 1 hour after we conclude, you can listen to a replay of this teleconference by dialing toll-free 888-566-0418. That's 888-566-0418, or by visiting NASA Video's YouTube channel. First, we'll hear from Joel Montalbano, Manager of the International Space Station Program. And over to you, Joel.
Gina, I don't think that we're able to hear Joel.
Okay, let me try this one more time. Thank you, Gina, and welcome again to today's press briefing. There's been a lot of excellent work getting us to where we are today, and I want to thank the Northrop Grumman team, the NASA Wallops team, Virginia Space, and all the NASA cargo providers for getting us to this point. There's been a large number of meetings and preparations for this mission, as we do for each mission, but with the conclusion of yesterday's launch readiness review, the International Space Station team. All right.
Hi, operator. Just want to make sure our speaker line is...
Okay.
All speaker lines are open. So if you happen to have self-muted, you'll just need to unmute.
All right. Again, I'm not sure where we lost the team, but let me try this again with, as Gina mentioned, the 5-minute launch window opens tomorrow at approximately 12:40 Eastern Time. This sets us up for a capture early Monday morning, February 21st, when Cygnus will arrive at the International Space Station approximately 4:35 Eastern Time. Astronauts Raja and Kayla are primed to capture the Cygnus with the station's robotic arm. After capture, we'll begin the berthing process where we'll attach Cygnus to the station's Unity module's Earth-facing port. Then after we have installation, we'll go ahead and open the hatch. From a planning standpoint, you can assume about 8 hours from capture to hatch opening. This vehicle is carrying more than 8,300 pounds of cargo to the International Space Station, with 8,100 pounds of that cargo being pressurized or inside the vehicle. The 200 pounds of unpressurized cargo includes a Cygnus secondary mission or post-departure payloads, including the XSAT targeted microwave frequency detector and a NanoRacks deployment of the Los Alamos CubeSat. Inside, part of the crew supplies will include 2,900 pounds of cargo, which includes some of the food we're sending up. As standard, we'll be sending up fresh food such as avocados, tomatoes, grapefruits, pears, blueberries, etc. We also have some frozen treats for the crew members, and then we're also flying a vascular aging experiment as part of the food complement, so we're excited to support that experiment. The science and research on this mission makes up just under 2,000 pounds, including 4 powered lockers, 4 double cold bags with research items, and this amount of research, which Jennifer will talk in details, gives us about 250 crew hours of utilization time that will be performed on board the International Space Station. We also have about 2,800 pounds of vehicle-related hardware, including some air tanks, some high-pressure nitrogen and oxygen tanks, a number of computer resources, and a little over 100 pounds of spacewalking equipment. And while Jennifer will go over the science complement, a couple of things I want to point out is on this vehicle, we'll have the ISS Power Augmentation Mod Kit, basically the support structure for one of the 2 solar arrays that will be delivered by SpaceX later this year. We have the support structure of the first solar array that came up last year, and then this will be the second one, and it'll be ready to support the next 2 solar arrays that we'll be, again, installing towards the end of the year. We're also launching on NG-17 the NanoRacks Airlock Trash Deployer, which will allow us to safely dispose of trash using the recently installed NanoRacks Airlock on board. We have a hydrogen sensor technology for our oxygen generator that will be flying on this mission. And then the Canadian Space Agency is launching a new lighting assembly for the robotic arm that will increase the illumination for that camera, allow us to have better pictures, allow us to have a better view as we go ahead and capture vehicles on board the International Space Station. In addition, the Cygnus vehicle will also bring a new capability, a reboost capability. Typically, our reboost on board the International Space Station is provided by the Progress vehicles, but this time we'll now have a capability with the Cygnus, and I know Steve will talk more in detail about that. These cargo resupply missions are critical to our success, and we're proud to be partnering with Northrop Grumman to make them happen. We're able to use the 7 crew members on board to maximize the utilization and research, the technology development, and orbit commercialization that we do on board the International Space Station. And while we work towards 2030, with our nation's administration's commitment to extend space station operations until then, we look forward to a decade of results from research and technology development aboard the International Space Station. So in closing, this vehicle will stay berthed to the International Space Station approximately 100 days, with their return approximately May 29th or so, and we'll work the details when we get closer to that. So with that, a huge thanks to the team, and I'll hand it back over to you, Gina.
Thanks, Joel. Now we'll hear from Jennifer Buckley, Deputy Chief Scientist for the International Space Station. Jennifer?
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today, and it's my pleasure to share with you some of the science that will be launched on the NG Cygnus spacecraft, the SS Pierce Stellars, tomorrow. The Cygnus spacecraft accommodates a variety of scientific payloads, and this launch will carry nearly 2,000 pounds as science payloads. So for big picture ISS research, over the course of a year, there are hundreds of experiments on the ISS, and during the average 6-month increment, we can have roughly 300 investigations ongoing. We conduct a diverse areas of research on ISS. We cover everything from human research, biology and biotechnology, earth and space science, physical science, technology development, and education. This flight brings up roughly 40 science investigations for NASA, the U.S. National Lab, and our international partners. To date, we've served over 4,000 scientists worldwide, 3,000 investigators. We've got over 2,000 publications coming out of ISS research, and we represent over 100 countries globally with our investigations. Research from these investigations launching tomorrow will help us advance in areas critical to our future exploration programs, as well as contribute to improving life here on Earth. I want to take a moment to share just a few of the highlights for this NG-17 Cygnus cargo mission. So they include some cell biology and tissue engineering projects for the ISS National Lab. We have the microquin 3D tumor investigation. So this is looking at a model for studying the effects of drugs on prostate and breast cancer cells. We know that cells form 3D structures more readily in microgravity, and these structures are more similar to how tumors would grow in 3 dimensions in the human body. So this will allow us to grow these 3D models to better assess drug penetration, to take a look at how tumors respond to that. We also know that cells behave differently in microgravity, so some of those signals are altered. When those signals change considerably, we can take a look at how that looks different than what it does here on the ground. So we'll also learn about some of the signaling pathways that are affected and how that might help us to focus research efforts in better treating these types of cancers and developing better drugs. We're flying the Colgate skin aging investigation. This investigation evaluates changes in skin cells in microgravity and could provide a model for assessing products for protecting skin from the effects of aging. Aging-related skin changes aren't simply cosmetic. As the body's largest organ, skin provides protection from infection, regulation of body temperature, as well as sensory inputs. So loss of that functional or structural stability in skin can have very serious health implications. Studies have shown that the exposure of the human body to microgravity and associated environment looks similar to what's seen on Earth during the aging process, but at a much more accelerated rate. The results from this experiment could show that these engineered cells may serve as a model that we can use to rapidly assess products aimed at protecting skin from the aging process back here on Earth. We're also flying a NASA combustion investigation called SOFIE. It's the Solid Fuel Ignition and Extinction Investigation. This is a new facility that will support our combustion and flammability research. In microgravity aboard the International Space Station, we know fire acts differently and it can behave in unexpected ways. Heat doesn't rise and flames burn at lower temperatures. So SOFIE will be using the Combustion Integration Rack, or CIR, which enables testing at different oxygen concentrations and pressures. And these are representative of the types of environments that we'll see in planned space exploration missions. These results can help inform spacecraft design and improve our safety. We have a plant investigation flying on this mission. It's called XROOT. So this comes out of NASA's Advanced Exploration System. XROOT is an acronym for our Exposed Root On-Orbit Test System. We're going to be growing 16 types of plants over a 6-month period in our veggie facility. This will inform our research for potential plant use and life support and for food augmentation, as well as part of a regenerative water and atmosphere processing system. It's also a precursor for AES's Astro Garden, our green wall that they're planning for future exploration. This investigation will use hydroponic and aeroponic techniques to grow plants without soil or other growth media. And this also can help us, by growing such a diversity of plants, identify plants that would be suitable and the methods that would be appropriate to produce crops on a larger scale for future exploration missions. The Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA, is flying a battery investigation called Space As Lib. Currently, lithium-ion batteries are widely used as a secondary battery source, and they use organic electrolyte. Typically, the electrolyte that they use is flammable organic material, and that can lead to concerns about safety and reliability. It can be an ignition source as well as have concerns about leakage. This investigation demonstrates operation of a lithium ion secondary battery that uses an inorganic and flame retardant material, so it doesn't leak. Since the solid electrolyte has chemical stability, it does not solidify at low temperatures, and it also doesn't decompose at high temperatures to produce volatile gases. So this will allow for stable operation in a wide temperature environment from -40 C up to 120 C and in the vacuum environment. This technology could be used in future exploration as well as informing ways to increase battery safety here on Earth. To learn more about the investigations that we have mentioned here today, or we will be talking about, you can go to our Space Station Research Explorer website, SSRE, or follow us on Twitter at ISS_research. We're looking forward to this launch tomorrow and the science that we'll be bringing to ISS.
Thank you, Jennifer. Now we'll hear from Steve Krein, Vice President, Civil and Commercial Space, Tactical Space Systems at Northrop Grumman. Steve?
Great. Thanks, Gina. Quick sound check. Got me? Excellent. Well, so thanks. And I'd also like to add my welcome from Northrop Grumman to all those listening in today. And I'd like to start by thanking the entire NASA, Virginia Space, Northrop Grumman, and the Wallops Flight Facility team, and all the others who really collaborated to bring the NG-17 mission to full launch readiness today. In particular, I'd like to acknowledge our team that is working in these final hours in the rather gusty wind outside, if you've been out in the wind, in preparation for tomorrow's successful launch. NG-17 is Northrop Grumman's 17th mission using our highly reliable Cygnus vehicle since we began our International Space Station cargo resupply service journey in 2011. I'm happy to report that we've successfully completed all certification reviews, and we are go for launch tomorrow, Saturday, as Joel mentioned, at 12:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with the planned arrival at Dark 100 at the space station early Monday morning. As Joel had mentioned, we're set to deliver 8,300 pounds of critical supplies and science instruments to the eagerly awaiting astronauts. And for NG-17, we've optimized the Cygnus configuration to remove some secondary structural elements to maximize the cargo load and also allow for a full fuel load that enables a new operational capability that Cygnus is now providing in Reboost. NG-17 implements a gimbaled delta velocity engine, or DVE, that will allow Cygnus to provide reboost or orbit raising capability for the station during berth operation. Our forward-looking plan is to execute a 0.5 meters per second reboost in April of the coming year. And also, as we approach the vernal equinox, it's nearly time for a good spring cleaning of the station. And so Northrop Grumman will provide our critical and timely trash disposal services for the astronauts on station, as always. And that's much appreciated, as I'm sure Joe will attest. With the recent exciting news of the extension of the ISS mission to 2030, and with the expanded use of science and use utility for the station, Northrop Grumman's services are never more important than today. Northrop Grumman is a fully committed partner with NASA to ensure the safe and robust operations throughout the full International Space Station mission life, and we continue to invest in upgrading our capabilities for the future. As we're now within 24 hours of the window prior to launch, the Northrop Grumman team is fully immersed in late cargo load operations. Providing this late cargo load ability allows time-sensitive materials and experiments, and also provides the astronauts access, as Joel mentioned, to perishable foods, such as fresh fruit and vegetables and ice cream. You'll hear shortly from Kurt Eberly on the Atari side, but Kurt and I are both incredibly proud of our teams and the highly successful efforts that brought us to our current launch readiness. Northrop Grumman continues to learn from each mission and upgrade our services and capabilities in partnership with NASA, allowing extensibility for future missions such as the Artemis Lunar Gateway, including the habitation and logistics outpost, or HALO module, that Northrop Grumman is currently developing in partnership with the NASA Johnson Space Center. I'm happy to report the mission is proceeding on track, and we're now excited for the critical design review in the coming year, in mid-year this year. Finally, it's been Northrop Grumman tradition, as I'm sure you're all aware, to name each Cygnus mission after an individual that's played a significant role in human spaceflight. We are honored today to name NG-17 after renowned NASA astronaut and climate scientist Piers Sellers. Piers helped assemble the space station and made lasting contributions to our knowledge of the Earth's biosphere and changing climate. In his 14 years as a research meteorologist at the NASA Goddard Space Flight Center, Piers created the simple biosphere model the first model to realistically simulate the interaction of global photosynthesis and the Earth's climate. Piers was selected for NASA's Astronaut Corps in 1996 and helped complete construction of the ISS during missions STS-112, 121, and 132, logging 35 days in space and completing 14 extravehicular activity hours during 6 complete spacewalks. In 2016, Piers received NASA's Distinguished Service Medal, the agency's highest honor. Sadly for us all, Piers passed away later that year at the age of 61 after a battle with pancreatic cancer. I personally had the honor to have worked beside Piers, and I'll always remember his relentless optimism, his sense of humor, which was exceptional, but even more so, his dedication and his passion for the betterment of humankind and the future of our planet. It is therefore extremely fitting that we will be returning the SS Piers Sellers to his home away from home at the International Space Station. I'm excited and looking forward to tomorrow's launch, and I'd like to turn it back to Gina as we look forward to the Antares launch vehicle discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. As a reminder, you can submit questions for our speakers using the hashtag AskNASA. Next, we'll hear from Kurt Eberly, Director of Space Launch Programs and Launch and Missile Defense Systems at Northrop Grumman. Kurt?
Thank you, Gina. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to be here for another Antares Cygnus mission, and if we could keep doing this to 2030, I think that would be outstanding. So, Joel, we'll hope to see you here for the next 8 years. All right, turning to NG-17, which will be the 6th launch of the 230 plus configuration of Antares that we've done under the CRS-2 contract. We've had a really smooth integration flow here at Wallops. A big thank you to our experienced integration and test team we have locally here at Wallops. We have about 60 people here, right here in Accomack County, so we really appreciate all their hard work getting the vehicle through its integration and test processes and then integrated with Cygnus about 3 weeks ago. We have been maintaining our same COVID protocols and appreciate them putting up with all the PPE that we require them to wear at various times, which makes it their jobs, just a little bit more uncomfortable. But they persevered, and a great credit to the team for getting us here today. I also want to thank our partners, General Mercer with Virginia Space and his team that runs the spaceport for us, and Dave Pierce and Jeff Reddish, who manage the Wallops Range. It's been a great partnership as always, and we couldn't do it without the partnership with those two great agencies. All right, so turning to the past week, just this past Monday, we had the dress rehearsal, where our launch conductor tortures the launch team with a bunch of green cards and off-nominal situations, and really the goal is to shake the rust off and also get the team prepared for communication and make the dress rehearsal more stressful than the launch is going to be. So I'm looking forward to a nice, smooth countdown tomorrow. Just this past Tuesday, we rolled out to the pad, we rotated the vertical, and then we did our combined systems test on Wednesday, and that makes sure that everything is working and all the interfaces between the rocket, the spacecraft, the launch pad, and the range. Wednesday night, we rotated back to horizontal. And Thursday, we moved the mobile clean room over the front of the rocket. I'm sure you guys have seen the pictures of that. And that's the configuration room right now. And as Steve said, the team is loading the final 24-hour late load cargo into Cygnus even as we speak. And to do that, we have the nose cone of the Antares fairing removed. So when that's complete, then we'll put everything back together. Cygnus will close out the hatch, and we'll put the nose cone of the Antares fairing back on this afternoon, this evening. And then it puts us in a position to move everything out of the way, and then we go rotate to vertical at around 11:30 p.m. tonight. We will connect a bunch of commodity lines and do some leak checks and final arming, and then we'll be ready around 5 a.m. When that all completes. The launch team will report to consoles around 7:30 a.m. It's a 5-hour countdown that will start at 7:40 a.m. We have a 5-minute launch window that opens at 12:40:03, so 3 seconds past 12:40 Eastern Time, and we will target the opening of the window. Fueling of the liquid first stage starts 1.5 hours before launch. We ignite the engines at L0 to an intermediate throttle setting. We do an automated health check, and then I think it's about 2.7 seconds after L0, we crank up the throttle and we will lift off. The first stage burns for about 200 seconds before MECO. We then have a coast period of approximately 50 seconds to increase our altitude, during which time we separate the first stage, the payload fairing, and the inner stage. After that, stage 2 is ignited, burns for about 2.5 minutes. After it burns out, we do a 2-minute settling period, and then we separate Cygnus into its insertion orbit. So looking forward to a good launch tomorrow, and go Cygnus, go Antares, and back to you, Gina.
Thanks, Kurt. Next, we'll hear from Jeff Reddish, Project Manager at NASA Wallops Range Antares Project. Jeff?
Thank you, Gina. Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Reddish. I am the NASA Project Manager here at Wallops. Look forward to this NG-17 mission. It is a great weekend. All weekends are great on the eastern shore of Virginia, so this is even a better weekend because we're launching a rocket. So look forward to that. We at Wallops are all excited. With our partners, Northrop Grumman and Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport, we have provided opportunity for a great launch come tomorrow. From a pre-launch standpoint, Wallops has supplied buildings for both the payload and vehicle buildups, and we've also provided a propellant loading building for the Cygnus load for so they have the propellants for once they get launched. As well, during the last couple of weeks, we've been doing all kinds of testing on our assets. Our tracking, telemetry, and command assets have been very active for the last couple of weeks. We have a downrange site in Bermuda, so we've had a lot of end-to-end tests and data flows between Wallops and Bermuda. All these tests have been quite successful. Today, we had our last test. We had our L-1 data flow test between Wallops and Bermuda, and after this successful test, we have frozen our configuration. So this configuration and data lines are frozen, waiting for us to come on console about 4:00 a.m. tomorrow morning. Since this testing, and later today, our director at NASA here at Wallops, Dave Pierce, will provide an authority to proceed, and we'll be working towards that launch come very shortly. We started bringing our support staff in around 4:00 tomorrow morning. Come 12:40 p.m., we are looking for this rocket to go vertical and skyward, successfully delivering this USS Piers Sellers to the International Space Station. I would like to thank the hardworking team that got us to this point. Although we have supported this mission for many years, it's not a standard mission. There's always new and difficult issues that arise each day within this mission, and we're always working to resolve and get over the issues. And on behalf of this very dedicated and expert team, we at Wallops are very ready and motivated to support this launch tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. We're eagerly awaiting questions from the public. As a reminder, you can submit questions for our speakers using the hashtag AskNASA. We'll now hear from Caroline Jones, meteorologist at NASA Wallops.
Yeah, now for the update everyone's dying to hear, right? So early this morning, we did see some light rain and gusty winds move through the Wallops region ahead of a fairly strong cold front, but those showers have since cleared out, and we're seeing mostly cloudy conditions now. We are continuing to track some favorable weather conditions for the remainder of the day and up through our countdown and scheduled launch time for tomorrow. Early in the countdown, we'll be seeing partly cloudy to mostly clear skies. Winds will start off light, but they will be increasing as a secondary cold front approaches our region near T0. Right now, the main factor contributing to our probability of violation is our ground winds, as they'll be approaching our 29-knot wind gust threshold at T0. But it does appear that wind gusts will remain short of that value until later in the afternoon on Saturday. We're also tracking the potential for some cloudiness in our area that may cause us to violate our cumulus cloud rule. But like the winds, we are expecting that these clouds will begin to build in an hour or two after launch. So to summarize, there's a slight chance that we may violate our ground winds and cumulus cloud rule, but overall, we're looking at a 75% probability of launch for tomorrow. And just in case we can't launch on Saturday, Sunday looks to be an exceptionally favorable backup day for us. High pressure will be building overhead, winds will die off through the day, and we'll be seeing mainly clear skies. We aren't tracking any lightning launch commit criteria violations at this time and are looking at a greater than 90% probability of launch if we were to set up on Sunday. But here's hoping we have a successful launch tomorrow.
Thank you, Caroline. Now we'll take questions for our speakers. Reporters on the line can ask a question by pressing *1 on your phone. Listeners can post your questions for our speakers using hashtag AskNASA. Elon, do we have any questions for reporters?
I do have a question from Jeff Faust, Space News.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. This is Jeff Faust of Space News. Question for Steve or Kurt. I know you're all set for this launch, but do you have any sort of contingency plans given the current geopolitical situation for future Antares launches if you run into problems getting components from Ukraine and Russia? Thank you.
Yeah, Jeff, this is Kurt. I'll answer that. Yeah, good question. We're obviously monitoring the situation, and hopefully it can be resolved. Just, you know, the best mitigation we can have is to be buying ahead, and so we have all of the hardware we need for all the missions we have on contract with NASA. So that includes NG 17, 18, and 19. All that hardware is here at Wallops, either in our HIF or in our warehouse, which is nearby. And so hopefully that will tide us over until these tensions can subside and we can, you know, be back to normal operating procedure.
Thanks, Kurt. Elon, do you have any other questions from reporters?
Our next question is from Rob Flax, 47 ABC.
Hi, my question is for Bradish. With Wallops being a big employer here on the Eastern Shore, we were wondering, now that there is this end date announced for the ISS of 2030, how that might affect staffing or the types of missions that NASA Wallops will be tackling in the future in terms of operational staff, in terms of the frequency of launches. How does this announcement of the end date for the ISS kind of affect the day-to-day ops, and particularly the types of folks who will need to be kept, you know, working in Wallops to facilitate these launches for as long as they continue?
Yes, we look forward to the ISS was actually extended, so we look forward and we're excited to provide support through to 2030 for the ISS. So in our minds, that's not an issue. It's actually a plus for us. We're always actively looking for new missions, and we've got many different missions on the book. So I see no reduction in forces. I just see an increase in staffing to cover our portfolio that we are you know, lining up as we go forward.
Yeah, and this is Kurt Everly. I'll jump in there too. Rob, you know, we are also excited about the extension out to 2030, and we plan to continue our presence here. You know, as I mentioned, we have about 60 folks permanent full-time here, and we augment that with additional folks as we get to these launch campaigns. We also launched our Minotaur launch vehicle out of here, and just this past year we had the L-111 mission last June, and then the year prior to that we had the L-129 mission. So we know that the NRO is really happy with the service they've gotten from Minotaur launching out of Wallops, and so we hope that we'll be increasing the launch cadence going forward through to the end of the decade.
Yeah, Kurt, and it's Steve. If I could just add on there as well. You know, looking past the lifetime for the International Space Station to commercialization of LEO via the current NASA study contracts for commercial destination free flyer rather, Northrop Grumman is certainly one of the 4 selected providers there. We're looking at architectures, leveraging the existing architecture from Cygnus and other elements, the HALO program as well that I mentioned before in my opening remarks. To bring that to fruition in toward the end of this decade. With that, we would hope there would be a continuing demand curve, both you know, for missions and resupply and also disposal. So we're excited about the future to help create with our partners at NASA.
Thank you, gentlemen. Elon, do we have any additional questions from reporters at this time?
I do. Our next question is from Ken Kramer from Space Up Close.
Hey, thanks for taking my question, and good luck tomorrow. Wish I could be there. My question is, I guess, for Joel and also for Northrop Grumman. Can you talk a little bit about, you were extending to 2030. So what's the current state of the cargo contract? I think you're under CRS-2 now. How many Cygnus and Dragon resupply missions do you have left? Can you give us an update on Dream Chaser, when the construction and when it might launch? And do you need a new contract, CRS-3, to extend for the lifetime of the ISS? Thanks.
All right, Ken. Hey, this is Joel. Can you hear me? Just do a comm check here.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. Well, good to talk to you. You know, right now we have missions on contract with both Northrop and SpaceX through 2023. And so we have, we're in the process of a procurement for 24, 25, and 26. That work is still in procurement, so I really can't talk in details about that. But right now we're just doing an extension to cover those years. And so we're by a little bit a yard at a time or so and working with the different providers. So my hope is in the next month or so we can get some public information out on that procurement. So that's how we're proceeding. As far as the Sierra team, you know, they continue to make progress to fly. You know, right now they are, we have them on the schedule for late 22, early 23, and we'll continue working with them. And then when they're ready, we'll look forward to seeing them on board the International Space Station. Thank you.
Thanks, Joel. Do we have any additional questions from the media, Elon?
I'm showing no further questions at this time.
Okay, great. We do have several questions from social media from Ask NASA. Darren on Facebook asks, how visible will the launch be during daylight?
This is Kurt. I'll take that. Yeah, you know, it'll be in the middle of the day. It's going to be sunny. So yeah, not the best viewing conditions if you're really far away. But if you're within 50 miles of Wallops up and down the coast, you should have a really great view of it as it goes towards the southeast. So the sun at this point will be more to the south, and so Antares should be to the east of the sun, and so that's good. But yeah, it's not as good as an evening launch or an early morning, you know, dawn launch. But it should be visible within around 50, 75 miles of Wallops.
Thanks, Kurt. Bert on NASA Social asks, what type of vegetables, herbs will be grown first with the X-Roots system?
This is Jennifer Buckley. So we are going to grow about 16 different types of plants. From the kind of vegetable and herb side, we have onions, carrots, cabbage, mizuna. We have multiple types of lettuce planned, radishes, which we've grown on ISS before, peas, turnips, multiple tomatoes, as well as some wheat.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next, we have a question from Susmeet on Twitter, who asks, how long will it take Cygnus to reach the space station?
This is Joel. We're planning for the Cygnus to dock Monday morning. We'll grapple the Cygnus about 4:35 Eastern time on Monday morning. And then there'll be some process from the grapple to go ahead and berth the vehicle, and then we'll get the hatch opened on the same day. So you can think of about 8 hours from initial capture to the hatch open.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, this is Steve Crine. Yeah, most of the kind of the exciting deployments and the like will happen early in the process. We'll do 2 adjustment burns early, and then the solar arrays will come out. The deployment process will start around 2 hours and 45 minutes following launch and completed at about just shy of 4 hours. So at that point, I think we'll know that we have a successful deployment process, an active vehicle, and then as Joel mentioned, it's just transit time, grappling, and full mission success thereafter.
Thank you, Joel and Steve. Elon, just doing a quick check to see if there are any additional media questions at this time.
I'm showing no further questions.
Okay, great. We've got plenty of questions from social media, but we would love to follow up with Jennifer Buckley. You mentioned preparing for future space missions earlier. Can you tell us how science and technology development and demonstrations we're doing on the International Space Station is contributing to Artemis?
Sure, I would be happy to. On the International Space Station, we are testing technologies all the time that we're going to be using for our future exploration programs for Artemis, going back to the moon and eventually onto Mars. So in our tech demo program, we're testing critical systems like life support. You also heard me mention today we're looking at things like plant growth systems. We have a very robust program in microbial monitoring to see how the microbial composition is changing in these closed environments. And it's really the only place where we can conduct some of this long-term research on how microgravity affects human bodies as well. So, this is really important as we look at some of our future exploration programs on what the effects are on our astronauts and how do we develop countermeasures to keep them healthy. We have some very kind of specific technology demonstration ones too that I personally find really interesting. We had one not too long ago where we were looking at potential building materials on the International Space Station. So we have a centrifuge up there that can spin things at various G rates. And the investigation used a regolith simulant basically to see if we could use it to make something like a concrete type substance. And so we can spin that at microgravity, at lunar gravity, at Martian gravity, and then a 1G control.
Thank you, Jennifer. Elon, do we have any additional media questions?
I'm showing no further questions at this time.
Okay, great. I think we will go back to Kurt. Kurt, what is the status of Northrop Grumman's 18th commercial resupply mission?
Yeah, sure. NG-18, we have the Stage 1 core brought into the HIF. We have the 2 rocket engines in the HIF, and next up we'll be attaching those. We have the Stage 2 motor delivered. That was delivered last November. And we just got a big truck delivery of almost all the avionics and harnessing that we need. And so it'll take us until early summer to complete the integration and test of NG-18, and we'll be ready to launch as early as August. I think NASA's got us on the books for an August launch. Which will be, probably quite a bit warmer here than it is right now. And Gina, I just wanted to follow up on the prior question on how to view the launch from the area. If you go to the northropgrumman.com website and type NG-17 into the search box, you'll come up with the mission page, and on there's a viewing map that shows the ground track of the vehicle, and so you can see where you should be looking and at what time after liftoff you'll see the vehicle come into view.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Kurt. Okay. I think we'll have a question for, Steve next. Steve, does Cygnus have applications beyond commercial resupply services?
Yeah, thanks, Gina. Well, certainly Cygnus does. If we look at the future of the current station instantiation through 2030, certainly the commercial adjuncts are going to provide additional requirements for both cargo and trash disposal. So we're looking to not only use the existing vehicle, as Joel mentioned, through the current contract and then 24, 25, 26, but also then to add upgrades to provide additional up mass and also disposal mass in the very near term. So we're excited about that. And if you look at the extensibility of the vehicle to other applications, certainly as the Lunar Gateway matures, the Gateway Logistics Services contract on-ramps will provide us plenty of opportunities for Northrop Grumman to take the current Cygnus architecture and take it to cislunar space, point one. And then point two, for the Lunar Gateway itself, I'd mentioned the habitational logistics outpost that Northrop Grumman is currently developing the first module for, and that's a direct extensible application from the Cygnus vehicle via the structure, the pressure modules, et cetera, that really take us to the next level in terms of applicability. We're upgrading in terms of the radiation environment for the avionics. We're adding life support systems, which is relatively new for us for human-rated systems. And again, that development's on track. And then looking to the future, as I mentioned earlier, with the space station reentry in 2030, the next generation of vehicles in terms of the commercial destination pre-flyer are certainly under development now, and Northrop Grumman is playing a large role in the studies there. And a lot of the architectural elements and the knowledge and learning that we've garnered from Cygnus is directly applicable to the CDFF architecture. And again, I think we bring a high reliability, proven approach from Northrop Grumman to CDFF that will be brought to maturity in relatively short order. So we're excited about all those. And again, I think Cygnus is just really the architectural building block for the future, and it's really going to be the tenet for a lot of our future mission types.
Thanks very much, Steve. Do we have Jennifer still on the line?
I'm still here.
I was told that the last probably sentence of what you said earlier cut off. So if you wanted to add anything to your Artemis question, please feel free to do so now. If not, I have a social media question for you, a new question for you.
Okay, thanks. I'm not sure exactly where it cut off, but, I think kind of the key points are, that we are doing research in space every day, supporting the Artemis and our future exploration programs. And really, ISS, is one of the only places where we can conduct some of those long-term research projects and tech demos. I'd be happy to answer the next question.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next, we have a question from Rachel Lorraine. Do the plants in space change direction towards the sun, like here on Earth?
That's a great question. The plants in space will change direction or grow towards the light. So a lot of times you will see photos from the plants we're growing on space station, and they look like they're growing vertically or kind of straight up and down. That is because we have our light source that direction. And so it is very similar to how they would grow on Earth, pointed towards the sun.
Excellent, Jennifer. Thank you for that. Elon, do we have any additional questions from reporters for our speakers?
I'm showing no questions in the queue at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you for your interest in this important science, research, and technology discussion, that all of the technology and research that's launching aboard Northrop Grumman's 17th cargo resupply mission to the International Space Station. You can follow all the research being conducted during Expedition 66's mission by visiting nasa.gov/station research news or following at ISS_research on Twitter. You can follow all the operations updates for the space station at space_station on Twitter and keep up with all the research being conducted aboard the orbiting laboratory. Let's see, please be sure to tune in on Saturday on nasa.gov/live for live launch coverage, as well as NASA's YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook channels. We also have a NASA app that you should definitely download today. Beginning at 12:15, that live coverage will begin for the launch. As a reminder, you can listen to a replay of this teleconference by dialing 888-566-8010 888-566-0418. Again, that's 888-566-0418. Or by visiting the NASA video channel on YouTube. Any reporters who'd like to follow up, who are listening to this replay and would like to follow up with questions, please feel free to email me. You'll find it in the media advisory published on nasa.gov. Thank you for all of you for joining us today. And with that, we'll close out our conference.
Thank you. This does conclude today's conference. You may disconnect at this time.